Here's 5 things you can do to be a better recording and live bass player right now. Play softer. When I started off, I started on guitar, and I really subscribed to the Jack White methodology of playing a stringed instrument, which is essentially fighting that instrument. I used to love super high action on my bass. I used to love just fighting against it and playing as hard with my right hand as possible. It serves certain genres and certain moments in songs really well to do that, and you will do that here and there, sure. What I've come to realize has just helped me, especially in the left hand when I'm fretting, is to just play softer, press down softer on each fret, and let my bass, the amp, my recording interface, let my gear do the heavy lifting for me in my sound. You just get a better sounding note. You run less risk of being slightly out of tune on each note that you're hitting. And it gives you just a more relaxed approach while playing, letting you be in the flow a little bit more and sort of enjoy what you're doing. A couple examples here is just to compare how this bass line sounds. That was me really digging in and playing pretty hard on my right hand and pressing a little bit harder on my left. And now if I play that same thing softer. So I actually got inspired by a jazz guitarist, and jazz guitarists with the chord and the chord voicings that they play really have to have strong finger dexterity, but also like flexibility in their left hand. And someone told me one time after they were playing a little bit of guitar, they were just like, don't press so hard on the string. Like you're getting bad notes. Sometimes you're bending notes a little bit more than you think, and you're kind of putting it out of tune within the context of what you're playing. So I started experimenting with just playing a little bit softer and realized as I'm more relaxed, I'm just getting a better tone. And it also allows you in recording to just have a little bit of that headroom when you're mixing on that instrument, to take it where you need to take it. Less is more when it comes to fills. I personally have never played a lot of fills when I'm just playing as a bass player or when I played in bands when I play bass and do vocals. I'm not a shredder. I'm not super fast on the instrument. I'm a professional and I feel pretty confident in my bass playing at this point, but I've never been somebody who does a whole bunch of runs and really practices that sort of stuff. When I am practicing a little bit more, especially when I'm practicing theory and scales and exercises, I get a little more confident when it comes to fills. But what I notice is, especially live, I'm playing just to serve the song. And that's what I think is the most important part about playing bass, more of a James Jamerson sort of outlook on playing bass. A lot of that does come from being a recording session bassist. So a good alternative to always wanting to play a fill every 4 bars or every 8 or every 16 bars and getting sort of predictable, kind of standing out above the band a little bit too much, a good alternative to that is just little things. Maybe it's octaves. Maybe it's knowing what the quality of the chord that you're playing within is so that you can maybe do a little embellishment on a major 7th or a dominant 7th. But just single note, 2-note little things that kind of play off the drummer, I find to be really helpful to just get you that little bit of a flex. You just want to express yourself in the moment, but you don't get too far off track to where you're doing this long 4-bar fill and really bringing attention to yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's not the bass's job. You want to hold down the low end and you really want to serve the song to the best of your ability. So just remember, less is more when it comes to fills, especially in a live capacity. This is another note on making things easier on your hands specifically. Find the easiest, most playable position to play the bass line, especially when you're learning a song or practicing a song. A lot of times my inclination, because my technique isn't the best and maybe your technique isn't the best yet, we'll get there. Because my technique isn't the best, I often will pick an unconventional spot on the bass and I'll learn the song there and I'll jump right into it because I have a good ear and I've always learned by ear. So I get excited and then I want to play a bass line sort of like up here. Or maybe it's a lower sort of bass line and I'm playing it when I could really play it. And that playing it down here might give me some options with open strings and moving around to a different section of the song because the song might be based around here and around these positions. But by playing it up here, I wind up limiting myself. So what I like to do every time I'm learning or practicing a song is I just challenge myself and I ask, is this the easiest place to play this on the neck? Is this the smartest place to play this on the neck? I think these are things you have to ask yourself every time. And I suggest asking yourself that really early on in the process of learning whatever you're learning or practicing, because you don't want to get too married to an idea up here or somewhere in an inconvenient spot where then maybe the only option on the B section of the song is to go down here and you're making this long journey. Now, contrary to that same thought, this next tip is to explore the neck and explore the high ranges of this neck for a different flavor to complement the low end. So what I mean basically is, if there's a breakdown in the song, if there's a different section coming up, and this really helps when it comes to live performing and you're playing through a good bass amp and you're running through the PA and there's that real punch to the low end. Say the bass line is, if you're in a breakdown, the drummer's kind of getting going and everything's coming down a little bit and you know that you're building up some suspense and the section of the song is a little bit different and you want to do a little callback. You know, you're in A essentially. You can basically emulate what you're doing in that bass line just higher up on the neck. Everything's low, so you don't have to necessarily provide this big punch, but you do want to be involved and you want to add a little bit of that presence. The bass is still going to be a little bit warmer. It's still going to be a little bit lower than a guitar or maybe the horn section or maybe even keys in some cases. So you play it up here, and then the superpower that kind of gives you is after you play it here for a while, it adds a lot more punch and it puts a lot more importance when you get back down to the original position and that low end is really coming through. I love that contrast and the way that it complements that low end. My final tip here is to just really focus on what your hands are doing over tone. Prioritizing tone when mixing or playing live or using pedals, it's all great and it's a lot of fun, but at the core, it's all extra. The first step is to really just focus on what your fingers can do. We're playing metal strings on a wooden instrument through electronic and magnetic pickups that then go through wires, out more wires, and into something else that's amplifying your sound, right? There's a lot of steps for this sound to go through. The source, the original source that's making the sound and causing it to happen are your fingers. You really should focus on them first. There's a lot of sounds, there's a lot of tones, there's a lot of techniques that you can explore in the process just in your fingers alone. That could be through palm muting. That could be, see how I'm pulling a little bit harder here. And then maybe I get a lot softer with it and I'm just doing all that with my fingers. I don't need to hit a pedal for a boost or turn my volume down to get those dynamics. Another thing that I do is if you have not long fingernails, but just a little bit of fingernails on there, you can always just sort of pluck a little bit with that to give just a little bit of a picking sound if you want a little more treble or attack on it. Once again, I'm exemplifying that softer playing here, and it's really coming through nicely. If you can visualize that path that the sound is taking through this instrument and out a cable into an amplifier, you can start to understand the source material right here and where that sound is originating from. And if you think about it that way, build a relationship and association with what your ears are hearing in response to what you're playing. And that's how you can internalize it and really practice it. I spent probably more time on practicing just the feel and touch on the instrument and the strings itself than I have learning exercises or practicing the theory on bass, especially when it comes to recording or playing with a really dynamic band live. It really just helps everything. It allows you to know what to do when. You have a lot more tools in your tool belt and things to pull out. You'll always need all those tools. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content. And if you do, please like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and just let me know what you think. I'm looking to do more of these bass videos, and I really appreciate it.